Namaste Saraswate Deve Uravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me very well. Is that possible?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, great. Thank you for being on board, everybody, today. We're going to go to page 1 to just do another invocational mantra. Page 1. As most of you know, we'll go right to the top. And I'll just thank you. Welcome, Dharma and Manasi Ganga from Mississauga. Hare Krishna. So, Om Jnana Timarandasya. Everyone? Can you repeat what I was just saying? Om Jnana Timarandasya.
Everyone is mute. So, Yoma Jnana Timirandasya. Please unmute yourself and say it.
Jnananjana Shalakaya.
Jnananjana Salakaya.
Chakshuru Unmilitam Yena.
Chakshur Unmilitam Yena.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
I was born in the darkest ignorance.
I was born in the darkest ignorance.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
With the torch of knowledge.
With the torch of knowledge.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Jai, thank you very much for participating. We are going to chapter 9. And if somebody could tell me the verse that we're on, that would really be cool.
Verse 21.
We are on 21. That's what my husband said.
Yeah, 21.
I'm hearing some very strange sounds.
21, 9, 21.
I think people have to mute. Maybe.
Okay.
People have to mute now.
Everyone is muted, Maharaj.
What is that strange sound then?
It's gone now. The sound is gone for us now.
Okay, super. All right, so we're on 21 then. Is that correct?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So I'll start with that verse, and I'll just do the Sanskrit. Titang bhuktva svargalokam vishalam shine punye marcha lokam vishanti evam turayi dharmang anuprapana kathagatam kama labande. Translation. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So just to, I'm just going to draw out a word that Prabhupada uses in the purport, Ferris wheel. I think this is a very nice example. When we were all young, we went on the Ferris wheel, which is all about kind of like going up and down. And so the notion of going to heavenly planets where there's lots of sensual enjoyment, it refers to, ascension to a higher plane. But the problem with being up there and getting these heavenly delights, such as just having a nice partner, good looking, fragrances are great, flowers are fragrant, let's see, the drinking is good, somarasa, which makes you a little bit tipsy. And there's just, it's, and you just have, it's like an ongoing, easy street living kind of lifestyle. Now, the problem with that kind of very endurance of pleasure is that it does come to an end, as Krishna indicates in the Gita, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punar avaritinorjana mamu pejata kauntiya punar janma navijite, which means that from the highest planet down to the lowest planet, all are considered to project misery because it comes to an end. You have to come back into this world again. You have to go through the roller coaster of life. You have to go through the caravan. And so what is the point? The key words here, you might want to look at the second line of the verse, Shine punye martyalokang vishanti. Key words here are martyalokang. So that is what we are known to be living on, the planet of death. Loka means planet or place, and marcha means death. So death is very evident everywhere. Anybody who's walked across big countries, you know that you see a lot of death on the road, what they call roadkill. And then it becomes road spill when traffic runs over it. And it's not nice to look at. And anybody that I've walked with on the road, and I point out, see what that animal was, or see what's there? Those are the ingredients to the hamburgers that most people eat. So then they get a little turned off. And so anyways, this is a place of death. And you come back down here after having been in Swargaloka. We've heard that word before. Swargaloka refers to the heavenly sphere. And after being there for a while, you come from there to Martyaloka, back to the earth. The good thing about being on earth is that everything's not so obviously that nice. It's really a mix of happy and distressfulness. It is obviously not something to savor living here in this world, with the pandemic, and everybody can kind of see that, and that love which everybody aspires for, it's only skin deep. It's not very rich. There's not much depth there. So, and the example is given, if any of you have had a pet dog, if you take him to the river and you throw, something out for him to get, like a stick, he'll go and get the stick, and you shouldn't send it out too far. He will never go out too far. He'll have to come back to the shore, back to the river bank. Or let's give another analogy, because that might not be so relevant to some of you. Let's say you're driving, okay? You've got a car, and you're driving, and you drive, and you drive, and it's a very pleasant drive on the interstate highway. So there is something called there's a gauge that will tell you you're empty and you're getting close to the E, and you will be forced to get off that beautiful interstate and to gas up. So it's kind of like that. What is the point in going up to the heavenly planets, a result of doing punya, pious deeds, and then you have to come back down again here to almost carry on from where you left off before. So it's such a delay. There's no need to go to these heavenly spheres, which are usually a result of being a goody two shoes. You know what I mean by goody two shoes? Do you know that phrase? Anybody? You can go like this or you can go like that.
No, we don't. I don't know.
Goody two shoes is a phrase that means somebody's a do-gooder. They are, they've been, they're principled and like being quite in the mode of goodness. They follow ethics, and so on like that. But if they haven't cultivated deep, profound love for the Supreme, they'll have to come back down here again to this world, oftentimes as some philanthropist or something like that. But it's better to cultivate your bhakti instead of trying to work at what we've said in the past, the fruits and the flowers of the Vedas. The fruit of activity aspect of the Vedas is following karma kanda, getting good results for your work. And when the flowers, the Veda Vadarata, flowery language of the Vedas, it's also about enjoyment in the heavenly planets. So we actually want to avoid fruits and flowers, and we want to take them and offer them to Krishna. Chapter 9, this chapter, we're going to come to it soon. We might even reach it today. One of the key verses from Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, so those are some of the points I want to cover. We don't encourage heavenly enjoyment. Any questions or comments?
Maharaj, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, in this translation, in the second line, it says, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas. So what happens to those people who don't adhere to the principles of Veda?
Well, they don't even get a chance to go to the heavens. There's no option for them. So when it says the three Vedas, we're talking about, again, ascension to the heavenly planets. So they just have to, such individuals who are following no principal values, they will, we call them vikarmis. Nunang paramata kurute vikarma. Vikarma means that you don't follow any suggestions or regulations that are prescribed to people who consider themselves Vedic. They don't take any real good advice in general. And so they just slip into the wheel of karma again and again. So therefore they're called vikarmis. Regular karmi is somebody who follows the karma kanda section of the Vedas. But we say you're a vikarmi. And of course, we don't want to get into name calling, honestly. But a vikarmi is somebody who's just follows their senses. They just, whatever their senses tell them to do. Oh yeah, you're right. When you're a slave, if your nose tells you, oh, I smell a fantastic pizza, but it's all unmentionable things on top of it. Or the tongue lures you, or the eyes sees an attractive, opposite member of the set, etc. And then you're led astray, and that with no regulations, without thought, without reason, and no guidelines whatsoever, no self-discipline. Like say, for instance, it doesn't click in that maybe it's not good for me to pursue this. Maybe it's not the right time. I know I'm tempted, but perhaps it's not good for me to pursue this because my wife won't like it, or my kids won't like it, or whatever, it's just like, it won't look good for me and my position within my community, and it won't be good for my health. All those kind of considerations have to be there. So vikarma is just where we don't want to go. And it breeds more, cyclic experiences, going through the whirlpool of birth and death again. So that's what we're talking about. Therefore, Arjuna is told by Krishna, Nishtra gunya bavarjana. Krishna says, nish means don't. Traigunya, three gunas, which are found in the Vedas. So rise above them, Krishna is saying. In other words, go for transcendence. That's the point. Okay. Is that more clear?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my Prabhupada. I have a question. Maharaj, Vedas is Krishna, right?
Vedas is Krishna. Well, yes, you can say that if you like. It is the voice of God because it has its root word vid, which means knowledge. But we also have to understand that part of that knowledge is like a stepping stone. You're not supposed to stay on the first step. When you go up a stairs, like I know you have stairs in your house, you don't want to just land on the first step. You want to go to the very top, right? So to get to the top, you have to take this step, that step, this step, and we call them baby steps, maybe. You know, I mean, most people are. How many Hanumans do we have on this call? Only Hanuman, because his devotion was so strong, was able to leap over from the mainland of India up into like Sri Lanka, right? So most of us, and we know that his army of monkeys, they put these boulders down, and this way they had to go step by step by step by step before they could actually get across to the North Shore on Sri Lanka. So that's where we're at. We have to take steps. So if we talk about mathematics, we can say 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, and you leave it there. That's not going to get you very far, because if you especially are, pulling in a lot of capital from your work, it doesn't get you very far, but it will get you somewhere. It gets you to 3 + 3 is 6, and so on like that. And then you have to learn some subtractions, because everybody knows that you have debts to pay, so you have to learn subtraction and division and so on like that. And then the higher realms of mathematics. So with the Vedas, you may start at one point, which is, I worship such and such a god, and I'll be very good, and I'll fast for that deity, and I'll get some physical benefits. But the point is, Krishna discourages this, and he says, well, you can do that, but really I prefer that you can just leap up to bhakti, go to the highest personality, highest entity. So Krishna's discouraging that kind of worship. Okay, so when we talk about the Vedas, it's complete, but don't take one little section and think that's the be all and end all. Okay, let's take an example. Let's go to Kostaba. What's the name of your town? What's the name of your town?
Village of Preston.
Preston? Preston or Preston? Okay.
Preston.
Okay, so let's say we go there and visit, and we go to the, let's say we go to, do you have a park there, by the way?
Actually, yeah, very nice one with a nice walking trail.
Okay, so that's not a good example. Let's go to one of the humble homes, okay? And we say, okay, this is Creston. Okay, you just get a little glimpse of what it is, but it's not the whole place. It's a cute little hamlet or village, so the whole thing is that when we say we should enter into the Vedic under Vedanta, it's Vedanta, it's not Vedas, right? Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, the conclusion of the Vedas. That's the difference. So don't just stay in the part of the Vedas, which is all about fruits and flowers, but go to that section of the Vedas which is pick a flower, pick a cabbage, offer it to Krishna. It's more about devotion as opposed to me being the enjoyer. Let me have the Rishikesh. Let me offer and let the senses be enjoyed to the master of the senses. So that's the difference. Okay? So we have to capture Vedanta, not just Vedas. Okay, so is there somebody who'd like to volunteer to read the next verse, 22?
Yeah, I can read. Hare Krishna Maharaj, I can read.
Yes, please do that. Can I just say before you go ahead, this is a key verse, and I would learn this one. It gives so much hope. So please read it, and then you'll understand.
But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have.
Okay, especially the last section. Try to memorize like in Sanskrit. Yeah, that's right. Yoga Kshema Bahamyaham means I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So what is Krishna saying here? Let's say we are not making the grade. We are falling short of our bhakti. What does Krishna say? Okay, I'll fill it in. There's a big gap there. There's a big vacuum. I'll fill it in. And wherever you do have some bhakti, some strength, I will preserve that. So what a great policy, coming from the Lord. What a great statement, isn't it? So in other words, whatever you have achieved, it's not going to diminish, save and except if you commit a lot of offenses. That's something devotees always have to be mindful of. And then the other part is that if you're lacking something, I'll fill in. So one time, Prabhupada was giving a talk, and he was on the Vyasasana, and it had a couple of steps before he got down to the temple floor level. And he was saying, so we must surrender to Krishna 100%, and then you will go back to Godhead. So when he was saying that, some devotees were saying, oh my God, I'll never get there. I'll never be 100% Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada was stepping down, said, okay, at least 90%. And Krishna will say, then I'll fill in for the rest. He went down to the level of 70, said, and even 70%, and Krishna will fill in what you cannot fill for yourself. In other words, he will compensate. See, that's the idea. He'll compensate for where there's something lacking in our own devotion. So the reason why I say this is an important shloka to remember before you go to sleep tonight, Yoga Kshema Bahamyaham, and then you can go for the translation. Please write that down, put it under your pillow tonight, and then pull it out in the morning when you get up, and just remind yourself that this is why Krishna is our best friend. Because wherever I'm lacking, he is going to fill in that gap. Okay? So it's really important. It's an important feature of the Lord. It's an important feature. So Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. I carry what they lack, and I just had a little burp. And I preserve what they have. All right.
I have one question, Maharaj, but then also we hear from scripture that we have to be completely purified to enter the spiritual kingdom. Our devotion has to be 100% to Krishna, towards Krishna.
Yes.
And so.
But who's going to make that 100%? That's the point. If you can't get it up to that golden figure, who's going to fill it up for you? If you can't do it. Let's go by a key verse. Krishna will be there to do that for you. He's a part of us. We are a part of him.
But our desire has to come from us, right?
That's right. We should will to be 10% like immersed in him, absorbed. We should be like a sponge that'll take in so much water. But what if it's not all there? Then he says, okay, don't worry, I'll pay for the rest. Just like if you got an object, oh, you don't have the rest, don't worry, I'll absorb the cost for you. That's the way he operates. That's his kindness. That's why we consider he's our friend. But I mean, honestly, if you want to try to do 100% without his participation, all the power to you. I don't mind, but I personally like this. I like this particular shloka, and I'm going to refer to it. I mean, I will just say, Krishna, I didn't quite make the grade. Can you, chapter 9, text 22, you remember what you said?
We will remind Krishna.
Yeah, we'll remind him, yeah. I think it's a beautiful policy. It just shows that just like if you're trying to cross a creek and you got, like rocks along the way and you just can't make that last leap. Well, he'll be there at the other side and you can just fall into his arms and he'll grab you. He'll grab you. So I think it's a great Yoga Kshema Bahamyam. It is a shloka of hope.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so will there be people who will try to take advantage of that by not giving more than 70%?
Yeah, we hear that kind of stuff all the time. That we hear, oh, Krishna's going to take care of my sins. Don't worry. Or we have somebody say, you're a very sinful person. And they say, oh, Jesus will, I just have to say, what's the saying? What do they say there on the street? These folks that are very loud. Just accept Jesus in your heart. Just say, accept Jesus in your heart. Okay, great. I think people in Alachua do that, right?
They're called Bible thumpers, right?
What's that?
They're called Bible thumpers.
Bible thumpers, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of wonderful people in the Christian community, but some people will just, they do a lot of nasty, self-destructive things. And say, just have to accept Jesus in your heart. That's all. What does that mean? It's not just something you like a verbiage. It's not like a verbal commitment. It's in the heart. And I think that's what they really mean to say. Accept Jesus in your heart, body, mind, soul, etc. Give it all. Yeah. But if it's just like lip service, if I can use that term, lip service, then and the heart is not connected, then there will be, let's say, one cannot progress very quickly. So we shouldn't take advantage of Krishna's really, sweet policies. I mean, surrender, give it all you got. And if there's a shortcoming, he's saying here, okay, I'll take care of the rest. All right. Let's go to 23 then. Who would like to do the honor?
Shashwata Prabhu is here. Maybe he can read.
Oh, fantastic. Shashwata. Haribol.
Are you here, Shashwata Prabhu? Maybe somebody else can read. Maybe Sarthak can read.
Sarthak, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Somebody told me today Sarthak sounds like he's a member of the Star Trek team. Okay, let's hear it from the Enterprise.
Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think everyone's quite familiar with the culture where there's just a lot of, multiple gods, and they're all kind of recognized, they're all revered. And personally, I think we can appreciate the fact that there's a big family out there trying to call me and say, are you okay, Maharaj? Anyways, so it's good to revere all these different peoples, gods and goddesses. And many of us come from a background where it's one God. I think there's a short-sightedness from both angles, because I think we should realize that there might be one person in charge. Sorry to say. There might be a big family, but there is what you call head of the family. And that is Krishna. That's our philosophy. And then there's those that say there's only one God, and there are no other gods. You can't worship anybody else. Okay, so we prescribe to the one God figure, but keep in mind that there may be some other lesser gods, or what we call demigods or semi-gods. They are they have power. And in many traditions, you have a God in charge of the thunder, God in charge of the sun, and so on like that. In the Christian tradition, they have celestial beings, they have archangels, and so on like that. I'm just giving that particular reference. So there are multiple gods, but there's one supreme power, and we call that what is the term for such an individual? The community that believes in one God. Does anybody know?
Monotheistic.
That's monotheism. When it goes to splitting hairs, there's actually a terminology I learned from Satyaraj Prabhu that when you have multiple gods, but there's one supreme power, and that there's a scholarly term for that. But basically, we appreciate there is Krishna, and then it gets even more complex. There's Rama, there's Narasimha, and they're plenary gods, and they have the same, you can say, equal power, but they are still the same God. And again, in some traditions, they say God can come as a burning bush. That's in the Old Testament. God appears as a young man. God appears as a pillar of light. And God appears as tablets giving directions. And so there's many different ways that God appears in this world. And because we have the term Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara is a name for God that means one who is the supreme mystic and can take up multiple, personalities. Anybody know Peter Sellers, the actor? He was a British guy, and he plays like an Indian gentleman so good. Very nice, everything's very nice. He was a man of all faces. He could be anybody practically, And so that's a crude example, but just to say God is one, but God can have multiple facets to himself. Is that okay, Prabhus? What Krishna is saying here is that people have devotion for many gods, but the Lord is actually saying that actually their devotion was meant for myself, but they are at the level where they are at. Okay.
Maharaj, I have a question here.
Yes, sure.
So, such people who have multi-branched devotion or devotion in various demigods, if we somehow were able to convince them that Krishna is the supreme and that they should channelize all their devotion into that one supreme root of the whole tree. But if it so happens, unfortunately, that they end up losing whatever devotion they had towards other demigods as well. So then, would it not be better to just leave them with the demigod concept as is?
Well, I haven't seen that ever happen. I see that they respond best when we say, "This is very good. You have so much bhakti. But please consider Krishna," and try to sell them a set of Bhagavatams. And once they start reading, then Prabhupada starts preaching to them. He does all the work for you. Because some people may look at you, okay, I'm 86 years old. You're telling me, that I can't have all these gods. You're telling me that Krishna is very special. Says, no, I'm not telling you. The books are saying it. The books, please read these books, and please get a set. We'll install them for you. We'll have a little yajna, and so on like that. So I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm just trying to say that if you win people over with your friendship, they'll be willing to listen to you. If you can quote Shastra, I'll challenge you, Sartak. I'll say, if you can tell them Yoga Kshema Maham Yaham and ask them if they know what that means, these same kind of people, and then they don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. So, well, this is what it means. This is what God is doing for you. So then when you convince them that you have a little bit of jnana in you, some actual philosophy, that you're a little bit of a pundit, they'll start to respect you, and they'll slowly be fed into the true understanding of Bhagavat philosophy. What do you think about that? Any other comments, Prabhus?
Maharaj, it just reminded me of a small joke because you gave the example of a 86-year-old. So I gave Srimad Bhagavad Gita to an 87-year-old person in my family who believes in Lord Ram. And he read the whole Gita. He says, "Oh, I really appreciate Prabhupada and all. But why is he calling Krishna Supreme? I believe in Ram." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you've not read it properly."
Yes, well, some people are a little, let's say stuck in their tradition, but we don't have any qualms with Ram. No qualm with Ram. Some of our temples have Sita, Ram, and Lakshman and Hanuman, right? So it's not a problem there. When we talk about what we might consider lesser gods, then we may have a little bit of an issue. And we have
But if
that
they want to
beautiful.
consider Ram as the supreme personality of Godhead, is that fine to let them be in
Oh
that?
yeah, that's fine. Read the Ramayana with them. No problem. No problem.
Okay.
What I just like in the Chaitanya Leela, Chaitanya, he met with a devotee by the name of Murari Gupta. And Murari Gupta was a physician by profession. He was a doctor. And he was trying to say, listen, love Krishna, honor Krishna, do puja to Krishna. And well knowing that Murari Gupta was a lover, a bhakta of Ram. So that night, Murari Gupta was so troubled, he couldn't get sleep. And he confessed to the Lord, to Chaitanya the next day. He said, I just couldn't get to sleep. I was so troubled. I just can't envision a life without Ram, and that I have to switch to Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped right there. He didn't pressure anymore. He said, you are a real devotee, because his commitment was so strong. So that's an example of, where we can go with our commitment to the Lord and his various incarnations. Like I have a retired school teacher friend. He lives in Windsor, Ontario, and he loves Vishnu. He's not so much into the Krishna thing, but he loves Vishnu. And he constantly sends me letters and messages and on the phone. Hey, Maharaj, could you do me a favor? Yeah, what is that? Could you put in a good word for the big chief for me? Vishnu. And it's kind of half joking, but he's serious. He loves Vishnu. He just thinks he's the most incredible personality of Godhead. And I'm not going to try to change him. I'm not going to say, oh, you're wrong. You don't get the scriptures. I'm not going to be a fanatic. If he loves Vishnu, I'm just going to let him stay there. It's fine. Okay. Any other questions on that one, Prabhu?
I have a question, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Jai, thank you. Can you speak to like when we have fire yagyas and we kind of do a shout out to the gods of the four directions, as far as I understand it? I'm not an expert at fire yagyas, but from what I've heard, there's kind of like an honoring of demigods and directional demigods present. I'm just wondering if you might be able to expound on that. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my god brother, Kaustuba. Nice to have you on board.
All right. And well, what I'd like to say is that even the yagya itself, the fire, is the tongue of Vishnu. So it's not directly Krishna. So Prabhupada has introduced, somehow or other, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition has welcomed these practices of fire worship, if you will, or seeing God, welcoming gods from different, you say directional gods, fine. And Ganesh may also be a part of it all. But we have to keep in mind that with the Mahamantra in the atmosphere, we are always remembering Krishna, who's the multi-directional deity and who's the source of all the Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So whenever there's a big yagya, everybody comes along. Why not bring in Ganesh? Why not bring in Surya? Why not, we got a big party happening here, man. Come on, all you guys, participate with us. And even with Sankirtan Yagya, that sacrifice, it's understood that everybody gets involved. A beautiful song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Shiva comes, Narada Muni is there. Everybody's summoned, to participate. So we don't have an issue with other folks being there and being present in some ethereal way by addressing them. It really depends a little bit on your priest, because I've seen different approaches to how to execute the Homa or the Havan, whatever you want to call it. In the south, it's called Homa. In the north, it's called Havan. And in the West, we just say fire sacrifice. Okay? Or Agnihotra. So your Agni's referred to there as well, the fire god, which is also the tongue of Vishnu. And so everyone's invited. No one's excluded. It's an all-inclusive event when bhakti is projected. But that's why Prabhupada wanted us to be not just ritualists, or not just to be sentimentalists, or not just to be, let's say, sentiment fanatics. He wanted us to understand the philosophy, and that Krishna is the Deva Deva Jagatpate. As long as you bear that in mind, then it's all okay. Remember, Prabhupada put more emphasis on Sankirtan Yagya than fire sacrifices and so on like that. But it's when we have a Havan, it's so attractive. Everybody likes to come around the fire, especially if the furnace isn't turned on too high. Everybody likes to come around the fire and participate and throw the sesame seeds in, or whatever, what have you, into the fire. It's an event. It becomes an event, and many people are participating. Some that you can see, and some that you do not see. Is that okay?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Jai Jai.
Jai.
We actually do have time. Any other comments on that, Bruce?
Maharaj, I have one question.
Yeah.
In Brahma Samhita, they mention 5 gods, right? Ganesha, Surya, and I don't remember the 3 more gods. They specify them as gods. Durga.
Just 1 second, okay? 1 second, please. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Just working out. How are you? Yes, I can take a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Not too.
Can't hear you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, I just muted. Maharaj, you're muted. So.
Okay, here I am. Okay, so you were talking about Panchapasana. That means 5 particular deities that are honored. Yeah, they're popular. There's Lakshmi is in there, Vishnu's in there, and they can be respected. They're part of the family. But again, Deva Deva Jagatpate, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Govindamadi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Krishna is the source of all these different manifestations, masculine or feminine. Krishna is the source. And that's why we give so much credence to this book, Bhagavad Gita. The original God spoke this, the signs of life. And so we can get to understand who's who and what's what. So again, it doesn't matter if Brahma Samhita addresses these persons, because they are part of the cosmic reality. Mm-hmm. We firmly believe in them. Why should we not mention them? But we also have to understand their position when it comes to Krishna's post. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the first day that I was, you know, actually it was the second day I was walking in America, in Massachusetts, we found this Ganesh deity, and we were going to go for a swim because we were so hot from the walk. And in Massachusetts, so many nice lakes there. And we were just ready to jump in, and we saw a Ganesh deity in the bottom. So we pulled him out. Devotees were asking, what should we do with him? Well, let's pull him out. Let's dry him up and put him in our vehicle, and he can be a passenger, and he can, you know, help to remove obstacles on the path of bhakti. And so we had very few accidents. So, yeah, why not? Why not? These, you know, Ganesh is lovable, you know. Shiva, I mean, he is such a cool dude. Really, so renounced and detached, and he and Sati or Parvati, they're living in simple circumstance, very inspirational. Why not? They're all wonderful personalities. We welcome them. Again, same thing, but we have to understand that the Brahma Samhita is all about Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And that means it's about the original person, the original form of God, who is Krishna. How do you like that? All right, so shall we do one more verse before we can
Yes.
finish for today? Is there somebody else who'd like to volunteer to do this?
Markandeya Rishi, if he's still here, or Tayani.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, everybody. Yes, I can read.
Okay.
I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who don't recognize my true transcendental nature fall down.
Okay. So maybe would you like, we usually like to have one paragraph or purport that we'd like to read in our, to be inclusive in our Thursday night presentation. Would you like to read a few more sentences, and then we'll give the rest to, who was it that was on the queue?
Tayani.
Okay, yes. So give us half of it, and then we'll give the rest to her.
I should continue with the purport?
Well, I think so, but we can vote on it if you like.
Okay, yes. I'm sorry. Here it is clearly stated. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yagya performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yagya means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Yagya or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is especially meant for satisfying Vishnu.
Thank you very much. And now the rest of the reading. Tayani, isn't it? Is she ready?
Tayani, if you're, if Tayani, Kaustubha, do you want to go?
Yes, can I read?
Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the supreme master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So the verse referred to yagnartat karmanon yatra loka yang karma bandhanaha tadartang karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. So work has to be done for the pleasure of Vishnu. Otherwise, whatever you do, it will cause a kind of bondage to this world. And therefore, do things for his satisfaction, and then you will get free from this bondage. So that's from chapter 3. So as Prabhupada explains clearly, yajna or sacrifice means Vishnu. So Vishnu is a big part of our life. And even though we center on Krishna, we make no real distinctions. How about this one? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale. So, we're not anti-Vishnu. It's like we are not, the Vedic culture, or like the Indic cultures, Indic religions, they are very inclusive. Buddha came along. Oh yeah, put him on the list. It's kind of like that. Anybody comes along, yeah, okay, yeah. It's kind of like, it's a question of recognizing the person's worth, their qualifications, And because the Vedas repeatedly talk about Vishnu and all these other gods and goddesses, therefore they are a big part of our lives. And they have lots of leelas that they portray so that we have lessons to learn from them. There's this one young woman who was coming to our programs, and she was from Laurentian University, which is way up in Northern Ontario. So she was a yoga student, said, hey, Swami, what do you think all these stories are about, all these gods and goddesses, Because she was very happy about doing her stretches, her poses, her pranayams, and very happy about kirtan. But then that other facet, this is just like a regular Canadian girl. She's asking, well, what about, the Shiva stories and this, and that? I guess she can't answer her own question. I guess we have lessons to learn from them. I said, you're absolutely right. That's why they're there. Good. So I want to thank you very much, everybody. Is there anything else here? We are going to go to next week looking at verse 25, 26, which are, and I don't think we'll go beyond that because they are critical. They are some of the essential baseline truths of Krishna consciousness. Don't forget, we're looking at the most confidential knowledge, and now we're going to understand a little bit more why it's confidential, especially with 926. So I would ask if you, Prabhus, could look at 22 tonight, write it down, put it under your pillow, memorize it. Yoga Kshema Bhamyam. Translation: I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. And that is just to remind you that Krishna is saying, I'm there for you. I'm with you. I'm your cheerleader. I believe in you. That's what he's saying there. Okay. Anything else? Do you want one more poem?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
We were talking about it before.
Yes, that's right. I owe you a poem, right, Kastuma? Okay, so how about, have I read this one to you before about from the Gita? Yeah, I don't think I have, not this group. This is a summary of chapter 2 from the Gita. All right. Sorry. Trying to get to it. Gita wisdom. Okay. I hope I haven't done this before. That is too redundant. Okay, so here we go. Gita wisdom. It's all about chapter 2. Once you were in the body of a very small child. Then you grew up to become a little wild. Your body as a youth showed all this passion. when people carry on in a certain kind of fashion, and then you took the body of a man, energy went to responsibility as you plan. Then before long, your body gets old. You then exit to enter another life of gold. The body will perish, but you will not. What I tell you is very good food for thought. The soul is immortal. It will persist. It cannot be injured by sword or by fist. By fuel or water, it cannot be drowned. By fire, not burned like ashes to the ground. By wind and air, it cannot be dried. No method of destruction will work if you tried. So, Arjuna, you really should not lament for the body that lived in time well spent. You start to focus as a warrior would do, or else there will be ridicule towards your clan and you. The Kauravas are watching every move you make. It's a matter of duty you're obliged to take. If you hesitate when something needs to be done, you receive a reaction, and that is no fun. Action and subsequent reaction is called karma. When we act as expected, it's called dharma. So do your dharma, avoid the karma. Do your dharma, avoid the karma. The world with all its changes will never come to an end. I'm telling you all this because you are my friend. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Nice.
All right, you paid your dues.
Okay. Good. So we'll see you all next week, please.
One question.
Sir.
Yes.
Do you post your poems somewhere we can read it again?
Yes.
Well, if you want one in particular, I can send it to you, but I'm going to put it all in the form of a book.
Oh, okay. This is very,
Very, very nice. Huh?
Haribol.
Okay, so do you want me to send one to you? I mean,
please, I
No,
can
no, no.
I know to Kostava, I'm going to send him one for his
Maybe you can
son.
send it to the group, like to the WhatsApp group. Vaishnavi, you could post it on the WhatsApp group, the last one.
Okay, I will.
Okay, I'll send it to you then. Okay, all right. Did somebody say something? Okay, anyways, Hare Krishna. I get a chance, I get to walk around again 2 days from now. I get to be a free bird.
Okay.
Haribol.
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Krishna.
Thank you
Guru
so
Maharaj.
much. So
Thank
good
you.
to see you
Hare Krishna.
all.
Thank you,
Yes.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Hare Bol.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
author.